When a billionaire's jealousy explodes in public, it doesn't just break rules, it starts a war. Adrian Vale never touched anyone, never showed emotion, never broke his own iron control, until the day he saw his secretary having lunch with another man. One kiss changed everything, turned professional distance into dangerous obsession, made her a target, and forced them both to choose between playing it safe or burning the whole world down together. This is their story. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And hit that like button so we can keep going. The coffee was exactly 71 degrees Celsius. Elena cross-checked the digital thermometer one last time before placing the cup on the polished mahogany coaster, positioning it precisely 3 inches from the right edge of Adrian Vale's desk. Not 2 inches. Not 4. 3. She'd learned that in her first week. Adrian never said anything about it. He never said much about anything, really. But she'd noticed the way his fingers would automatically reach for that exact spot every morning at 8:47 a.m., right after he finished reviewing the overnight market reports from Tokyo. 2 years. 730 days of this routine, of being invisible in the most visible way possible. Mr. Vale will be up in 4 minutes, Marcus, the head of security, said through her earpiece. Guest elevator? Understood. Elena straightened a stack of already straight documents, then immediately felt stupid for it. Her hands needed something to do, that was all. Idle hands led to mistakes, and mistakes led to, well, she'd seen what happened to people who made mistakes around Adrian Vale. The executive floor of Vale Industries occupied the entire 53rd story of the Castellan Tower, a glass and steel monument to excess in downtown Manhattan. From her desk outside Adrian's office, Elena had a view that most people would kill for, the Hudson River glittering in the morning sun, the Statue of Liberty small and proud in the distance, helicopters buzzing between buildings like mechanical insects. She barely noticed it anymore. What she did notice was the subtle change in air pressure when the private elevator doors opened. The way conversations in the open workspace beyond her area would die mid-sentence. The particular quality of silence that followed Adrian Vale like a second shadow. He was early. Elena's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up his schedule on both monitors. Meetings pushed back. Why? The door opened. Adrian Vale didn't walk into a room so much as he redistributed the gravity in it. 6'3", broad shoulders that his custom Tom Ford suit somehow made look even broader. Dark hair that was always exactly as messy as it needed to be to suggest he had better things to think about than vanity. Which he did. Adrian thought about money, about power, about the 1,000 moving pieces of his empire that stretched from real estate to tech, to things Elena suspected but had been carefully trained not to know. He was 34 years old and worth somewhere north of $8 billion, depending on which market you were tracking. He'd built his first company at 19 and sold it at 23 for enough money to make most people retire. Instead, he'd turned around and built something bigger, then bigger still. Forbes called him a visionary. The Wall Street Journal called him ruthless. His enemies called him a lot of things, most of which weren't printable. Elena called him Mr. Vale, and she made sure his coffee was exactly 71 degrees Celsius, and she did not, absolutely did not, think about the way his hands looked when he loosened his tie at the end of a long day, the way his voice dropped half an octave when he was angry, the exact shade of gray his eyes turned when he was thinking through a problem. She definitely didn't think about those things. "Morning," he said, not quite looking at her as he passed. He never looked directly at her. It was part of the careful distance they maintained, the professional moat that kept everything functioning smoothly. "Good morning, Mr. Vale." She kept her voice level, neutral. "Your 9 a.m. with the Meridian Group has been moved to 9:30. They're running behind." "Cancel it." Elena's fingers hesitated over her keyboard. "Sir?" "Cancel the Meridian meeting. Push everything back 2 hours. I need to make a call." He was already moving into his office, already pulling his phone from his jacket pocket. She opened her mouth to ask about the lunch meeting with the Japanese investors. They'd flown in specifically for today, but Adrian was already closing his door, not slamming it. Adrian Vale never slammed doors. He simply closed them with a finality that made it clear the conversation was over. Elena stared at the closed door for exactly 3 seconds, then opened her calendar and started rearranging his entire morning. This was fine. She was good at this. Excellent at this, actually. She could juggle 15 competing priorities, manage egos the size of small countries, and make it all look effortless. That's why Adrian paid her $350,000 a year, plus benefits that included a car service, a health plan that covered everything up to and including experimental treatments, and a performance bonus that last year had been larger than her father's annual salary. She was the best personal secretary in Manhattan, possibly in the country. She was also possibly losing her mind because she'd spent the last 6 months having increasingly vivid dreams about her boss that were absolutely, categorically inappropriate. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. "Still on for lunch?" Elena felt her stomach drop. She'd forgotten. Completely forgotten. "Yes," she typed back, 12:30. "Same place?" "Perfect. Can't wait." She put her phone face down on her desk and tried to focus on the email from the Meridian Group's assistant, who was going to be absolutely furious about the cancellation. In the background, through the thick glass walls of Adrian's office, she could see him pacing, talking on the phone with sharp, aggressive gestures that meant someone on the other end was about to have a very bad day. Elena had seen him destroy companies with less emotion than most people showed deciding what to have for breakfast. She'd watched him negotiate deals that shifted billions of dollars with the same casual intensity other people brought to ordering coffee. And yet somehow, in 2 years, she'd never seen him lose control. Not once. The intercom on her desk buzzed. Elena. Her full name, not Ms. Cross. That was unusual. "Yes, sir?" "Get me everything we have on the Castellan merger. Physical files. I want the originals. The 2019 acquisition? All of it, every piece of paper." That was going to take at least an hour. The Castellan files were in the archive room 3 floors down, and they filled 2 entire cabinets. "Right away, sir. Should I have someone from records?" "You. I want you to do it." The line went dead. Elena sat very still for a moment, trying to decode what had just happened. In 2 years, Adrian had never asked her to retrieve physical files. That's what the records department was for. That's what assistants to assistants were for. Something was wrong. She stood up, smoothed her skirt. Armani, navy blue, conservative but expensive, because appearance mattered in this building, and headed for the elevator. The archive room was a climate-controlled vault in the sub-basement, accessed only by keycard and biometric scan. It smelled like old paper and expensive preservation chemicals. Elena found the Castellan files right where they were supposed to be, pulled both cabinets worth of documents, and loaded them onto a cart. Her phone buzzed twice while she was sorting through the folders. Both texts from James. "Still thinking about our conversation last week. I meant what I said." She didn't respond. Couldn't, really. Not here. Not where every keystroke was potentially monitored, every message potentially archived. James Rothschild was old money, the kind of old that meant his family had been wealthy when Manhattan was still farmland. He was handsome in that effortless way rich men often were, charming, and completely inappropriate for someone like Elena. She was middle-class Brooklyn, a scholarship kid who'd fought her way through NYU and into this job through nothing but competence and obsessive attention to detail. But he'd asked her to dinner 3 weeks ago, and she'd said yes because why not? Because she was 27 years old, and she spent 60 hours a week being professionally invisible? Because the only man she ever thought about was the one person in the world she absolutely could not have? The dinner had been nice, easy. James talked about his work at his family's investment firm, asked her questions about herself, actual questions like he cared about the answers, and didn't try to impress her with money or connections. At the end of the night, he'd said, "I know your situation is complicated, but I think you're extraordinary, and I'm patient." She'd gone home and dreamed about Adrian's hands. The elevator ride back up to 53 felt longer than usual. When Elena pushed the cart into the executive suite, she could see Adrian through the glass walls of his office, still on the phone, still pacing. She parked the cart outside his door and waited. And waited. Finally, the door opened. Adrian stood there, phone pressed to his ear, and gestured her inside with a sharp movement. She'd been in his office 10,000 times, but never like this. Never with him right there, close enough to smell his cologne, something cedar and smoke. and expensive. I don't care about their timeline, Adrian said into the phone, his voice cold enough to frost glass. Tell them they have 48 hours to accept our terms or we walk. No, I'm not negotiating. 48 hours. He ended the call, dropped his phone on the desk, and finally, looked directly at Elena. The air in the room changed. It was such a small thing, eye contact. People did it thousands of times a day without thinking. But Adrian's eyes were the color of storm clouds, and when he looked at her, really looked at her, Elena felt like every careful wall she'd built over 2 years suddenly became transparent. The files, she said, hating how small her voice sounded. Where would you like them? Leave them. He moved back to his desk, started sorting through papers with aggressive efficiency. Clear my schedule for the rest of the day. Sir, you have all of it. Cancel everything. Elena pulled out her tablet, started making notes. Should I give them a reason? Tell them I'm busy. And the Tokyo investors? Reschedule. She looked up from her tablet. They're flying back tomorrow morning. Then they'll have to fly back again. Adrian didn't even glance at her, just kept shuffling papers. That's all. Dismissed. Again. Elena turned to leave, made it 2 steps before his voice stopped her. Elena. She froze. He never used her first name. In 2 years, it had always been Miss Cross, always professional, always distant. Yes? When she turned back, he was staring at her again, really staring, like he was trying to solve a problem and she was the only variable that didn't make sense. Never mind. That's all. She left before he could see her hands shaking. The restaurant was a small Italian place in Midtown, the kind of spot that catered to business lunches and looked exactly like 50 other places within a 3-block radius. Elena arrived 5 minutes early. She was always early, and found James already at a table by the window. He stood when he saw her, pulled out her chair, ordered wine without asking if she wanted any, which should have annoyed her but somehow didn't. You look beautiful, he said, and meant it. That color is incredible on you. Elena glanced down at her blouse. Silk, emerald green, maybe a shade brighter than she usually wore. She'd put it on this morning without thinking, then spent the entire subway ride wondering if it was too much. Thank you. Rough morning? Is it that obvious? James smiled. You have a very small crease right here. He gestured to the space between his eyebrows. That only shows up when you're stressed. I've been studying you. That should have been creepy. Instead, it made her stomach flip. They ordered. Elena got pasta she wasn't hungry for. James talked about his week, a complicated deal his firm was structuring, some family drama involving his sister's engagement. Normal things. Human things. Can I ask you something? James said, setting down his wine glass. That depends on the question. Are you happy? Elena blinked. What? At your job, working for Adrian Vale. Are you happy? The question landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through her carefully maintained composure. I'm successful. I'm good at what I do. That's not what I asked. Elena looked out the window, watching people hurry past on the sidewalk. Happiness isn't really the point, isn't it? I have a career most people would kill for. I make more money than I ever thought possible. I work with one of the most powerful men in the country, and you're miserable. She should have argued, should have defended herself, her choices, the life she'd built. Instead, she just sighed. I think, James said carefully, that you've spent so long being excellent at your job that you've forgotten you're allowed to want more, to want something for yourself. James, I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want you to know that there are options, other ways to live. He reached across the table, let his fingers brush hers. You could quit tomorrow. Come work somewhere else, somewhere normal, somewhere that doesn't require you to be perfect every second of every day. Yes. Elena stared at their hands, almost touching. It would be so easy to just let go, to walk away from Adrian and his impossible standards and the way he never really saw her except when she made mistakes, to stop dreaming about a man who treated her like a particularly useful piece of furniture. I'll think about it, she heard herself say. James smiled. That's all I'm asking. They finished lunch. James paid, insisted on it actually, waving away her credit card. They stood outside the restaurant and he pulled her into a hug that lasted just a fraction too long to be merely friendly. Coffee next week? He asked. Maybe. I'll check my schedule. You're always checking your schedule. But he said it fondly, like it was endearing instead of pathological. Elena watched him walk away, then pulled out her phone to check the time. She had 45 minutes before her next meeting, plenty of time to... She looked up and saw Adrian. He was standing across the street, next to his car, a matte black Bentley that probably cost more than most people's houses. Marcus was beside him, holding the door, but Adrian wasn't moving. He was just standing there, staring at her. Even from this distance, Elena could feel the weight of his gaze, could see the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hands were clenched at his sides. Their eyes met across 2 lanes of traffic and 50 feet of sidewalk. Then Adrian moved, not toward his car, toward her. He crossed the street like he owned it, like the taxis and delivery trucks would simply have to navigate around him because he certainly wasn't going to stop. And they did. Cars slowed, horns didn't honk. The normal chaos of Manhattan seemed to part for him like water. Elena's heart started hammering. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Mr. Vale, she started. He didn't let her finish. Adrian Vale, who had never touched her in 2 years, who maintained professional distance like it was a religion, who treated her like a competent stranger. He reached out, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her against him. Then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative or questioning. It was possession, claim. A statement written in the language of lips and teeth, and his hand fisted in her hair. Elena's brain short-circuited. She should push him away, should remember where they were, on a public street in the middle of the day where anyone could see, where everyone was definitely seen. Instead, she kissed him back. She'd imagined this. Late at night, in the privacy of her apartment, she'd let herself imagine what it would be like if Adrian ever looked at her the way he looked at a problem he intended to solve. If he ever touched her the way his hands moved across contracts he was about to sign. The reality was nothing like her imagination. It was better, and worse, and completely insane. When he finally pulled back, and it felt like years later, like the entire world had aged while they stood there, his eyes were dark, furious, desperate. Mine, he said. Not a question, a declaration. What? Elena couldn't catch her breath, couldn't think. What are you doing? Something I should have done 2 years ago. His hand was still in her hair, his thumb brushing her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything else about the moment. You don't have lunch with other men. You don't let them touch you. You're mine. I'm your secretary. You're mine, he repeated, and I'm done pretending otherwise. People were staring. Of course they were staring. This was going to be on social media in about 15 seconds. The business blogs in 30. The actual news by tonight. Elena should be panicking. Should be thinking about the consequences. About how this was going to destroy her career. About what it meant that Adrian Vale, controlled, calculated Adrian, had just publicly claimed her like some kind of caveman. Instead, all she could think was, finally. We need to talk, she managed. Yes. Not here. No. But he didn't let go of her, didn't step back. My office. Now. It wasn't a request. Marcus had brought the car across the street, was standing by the open door like this was all perfectly normal. Like he witnessed his boss publicly kiss his secretary on random Tuesday afternoons all the time. Elena should refuse. Should insist on taking a cab, on maintaining some shred of professional distance even though that ship had clearly sailed and was currently somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. She got in the car. Adrian slid in beside her and Marcus closed the door, sealing them in leather-scented silence. The partition between the front and back seats was already up. Privacy glass turned the outside world into murky shapes and shadows. 2 years, Adrian said, not looking at her, looking straight ahead like he was addressing the partition instead of the woman whose lipstick was probably smeared across his mouth. I've wanted you for 2 years. Elena's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs. You never said anything. You worked for me. There were rules. There are still rules. I don't care. Now he did look at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her stomach flip. I saw you with him, saw him touch you, and I realized I don't care about the rules anymore. I don't care about being professional or appropriate or any of the bullshit we've been hiding behind. James is just, I don't want to hear his name. Adrian's voice went cold. I don't want to know who he is or what he wants or why you were smiling at him like that. Like what? Like he was worth your time. Like he could give you something I couldn't. The car turned onto 6th Avenue, heading back toward Vale Industries, back toward the tower where this had all started, where Elena had spent 2 years being perfect and professional and completely, utterly invisible. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Adrian was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, raw. Everything. I want everything. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He reached out, traced the curve of her jaw with one finger. Such a small touch. It felt like lightning. I want you to stop pretending you don't feel this too. I want you to stop going to lunch with men who aren't me. He stopped, breathed. I want you to be mine, completely, and I want to be yours the same way. Elena closed her eyes. This was insane. This was career suicide. This was everything she'd promised herself she wouldn't do when she took this job. Okay, she whispered. Okay? She opened her eyes. I want that too. I've wanted it for, she couldn't say 2 years. Couldn't admit that she'd been just as gone as he apparently was. A long time. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. The desperation faded, replaced by something that looked almost like relief. He pulled her across the seat, positioned her so she was practically in his lap, and kissed her again. This time it was different, slower, deeper, a promise instead of a claim. The car pulled up to Vale Industries far too quickly. Marcus opened the door, and Adrian helped Elena out like nothing unusual had happened. Like they arrived at the office together all the time. The lobby was full of people, employees, visitors, all of them with phones. All of them definitely noticing that Adrian Vale had just arrived with his secretary, both of them visibly disheveled, her lipstick smudged and his shirt collar askew. Elena wanted to sink into the floor. Adrian just took her hand and walked toward the private elevator like he owned the whole damn building, which, to be fair, he did. The elevator ride up felt endless. Adrian's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand, a casual intimacy that should have felt wrong but didn't. When the doors opened on the executive floor, the usual bustle of activity died instantly. Everyone stared. Adrian ignored them. Led Elena past her desk, past the glass walls of his office, into the private conference room that connected to his suite. The door closed, locked. Then they were alone. This is going to be complicated, Elena said, because someone had to say it. I know. People are going to talk. Let them. I could lose my job. You won't. Adrian pulled her close again, rested his forehead against hers. But if you want to leave, if this is too much, tell me now, before we go any further. Elena thought about James, about his offer of a normal life, a safe life, a life where she could have dinner without worrying about optics, where she could date someone who actually saw her as an equal instead of an employee. Then she thought about the last 2 years, every morning watching Adrian arrive, every late night when it was just the two of them and the city lights, and the careful distance they maintained. Every moment she'd push down her feelings because they were inappropriate and unprofessional and completely impossible. I don't want safe, she said. Adrian smiled, actually smiled, which was rare enough to feel like a gift. Good. Because I'm not offering safe, I'm offering dangerous, complicated, probably messy. Messy how? My world isn't kind, Elena. There are people who will see you as a weakness, as leverage. Getting involved with me means stepping into something that could hurt you. Are you trying to scare me off? I'm trying to be honest. His hand slid down to her waist, pulled her closer. Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. I'm not good at casual. I don't share. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. I'm not yours yet. Aren't you? Elena should argue, should point out that one kiss didn't make her his property, that she had agency and choices and a life outside of his orbit, but she'd stopped lying to herself somewhere between the car and the elevator. Yes, she admitted. I think I've been yours for a while now. The kiss that followed was inevitable. Was 2 years of carefully maintained distance finally, catastrophically collapsing? Adrian backed her against the conference table, his hands in her hair, on her waist, everywhere. Elena grabbed his tie, pulled him closer, and let herself feel everything she'd been suppressing for 730 days. Somewhere in the rational part of her brain, she knew this was a terrible idea, knew there would be consequences, HR violations, gossip, probably a lawsuit or two. She didn't care. Adrian broke the kiss long enough to look at her, really look at her, like he was memorizing her face. Tell me this is real. Tell me I'm not imagining what I saw in your eyes every time you handed me my coffee. It's real. Elena smoothed his collar, a gesture she'd done 1,000 times before, but never like this, never with permission. I thought I was hiding it. You were, from everyone but me. His thumb brushed her lower lip. I noticed everything. The way you'd look away when I walked past. The way your hands would shake when I got too close. I thought I was going insane. You thought you were, Elena laughed, the sound surprising her. I've been having dreams about you for 6 months. Only 6 months? His smile was wicked. I've been having dreams about you since day one. You're terrible at your job then. You didn't show it once. I'm excellent at my job. That's why I didn't show it. Adrian stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. But I'm done. I'm done pretending. Done watching you be professional and distant when all I want is this. Elena perched on the edge of the conference table, trying to catch her breath, trying to think. So what happens now? Now you tell me about him. James? Adrian's expression went dark. I don't want to know his name, but I need to know what he is to you. He's nothing. We had dinner a few weeks ago. He's nice, safe. The opposite of you, basically. Elena met his eyes. That was the appeal. And now? Now I think I'm done with safe. Adrian crossed back to her in 2 strides, caged her against the table with his arms. You need to end it, whatever it is. I meant what I said. I don't share. There's nothing to end. It wasn't serious. He touched you. Barely. It was a hug. I don't care. End it. Elena should be annoyed by the possessive command, should probably point out that he didn't actually own her. Instead, she found herself nodding. Okay. I'll tell him. Today. Some of the tension left Adrian's shoulders. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle this time. Thank you. You're welcome. Now can we talk about the fact that you just publicly kissed me in the middle of Midtown? No. Adrian, I'm not apologizing for that, or for anything else that's about to happen. Elena laughed, the sound half hysterical. This is insane. You know that, right? This is completely, objectively insane. Probably. I could sue you for harassment. You could. He didn't seem worried. Will you? No. Then stop trying to find problems and just feel it. Elena looked at him, at this man who commanded empires and made board members sweat and had never, in 2 years, shown her anything but professional courtesy, who was now looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. I'm scared, she admitted. Good, so am I. You don't get scared. I do. Adrian's hand found hers, threaded their fingers together. I'm scared of what this means, of what I'm risking, of the fact that I just blew up every rule I've ever had because I couldn't stand watching another man touch you. That's not very rational. No, it's not. He pulled her off the table into his arms, but I'm done being rational about you. They stood like that for a long moment, just holding each other while the city hummed outside the windows. Elena could feel Adrian's heartbeat against her cheek, quick and hard. He was scared, actually scared. Somehow that made her feel better. A knock on the door shattered the moment. Mr. Vale? Marcus's voice, carefully neutral. You have a situation. Adrian didn't let go of Elena. What kind of situation? The kind that's trending on Twitter. Of course it was. Of course their kiss was already all over social media. Elena had known it would be, but knowing and confronting were two different things. Handle it, Adrian said. Sir, the board is asking questions. Tell the board I'm busy. They're insisting on a meeting. Adrian swore under his breath. Fine, 20 minutes, conference room B. I'll let them know. When Marcus's footsteps faded, Elena stepped back. This is what I meant by complicated. I know. The board is going to lose their minds. Let them. Adrian straightened his tie, checked his reflection in the glass wall. They don't run this company. I do. Adrian, Elena. He turned to her, cupped her face in his hands. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She thought about James and his offer of a normal life, about the safe choice, the smart choice. Then she thought about the way Adrian had looked at her across the street, the way he'd crossed traffic like it was nothing because seeing her with someone else had broken something fundamental in him. Yes, she said, I trust you. Good. He kissed her once more, quick and hard. Now go back to your desk. Pretend everything is normal. Nothing about this is normal. Then pretend anyway. I need you to be who you've always been while I handle this. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to stay with him, face whatever was coming together. But she understood the game they were playing, understood that right now, normalcy was a weapon. Okay. She left the conference room, walked back to her desk on shaky legs. Her phone was already exploding with notifications, text messages from friends, emails from reporters, a missed call from her mother, which was going to be a fun conversation. The entire executive floor was pretending to work while actually watching her. Elena ignored them, sat down at her desk, and opened her email like it was just another Tuesday afternoon. Inside Adrian's office, she could see him preparing for the board meeting, putting on his armor, becoming the version of himself that didn't show weakness or doubt or fear. Her phone buzzed, a text from James. Did I just see what I think I saw? Elena stared at the message, thought about everything that had changed in the last hour, everything that was about to change. Can we talk? She typed back. Tonight? Of course. Are you okay? Was she? Elena looked through the glass at Adrian, at the man who had just upended her entire world because he couldn't stand seeing her smile at someone else. I will be, she sent. I'll explain everything tonight. Another buzz. This time from Adrian. Whatever happens in this meeting, remember what I said. You're mine, and I'm yours. Nothing changes that. Elena saved the message. Then she pulled up his calendar and started rescheduling the meetings he'd canceled that morning. Because he was right. They needed to pretend. Needed to look like everything was normal while the world exploded around them. But underneath her professional calm, underneath the careful mask she'd perfected over 2 years, Elena was smiling. Because Adrian Vale, controlled, calculating, untouchable Adrian Vale, had finally broken. And he'd broken for her. The board meeting lasted 93 minutes. Elena knew because she watched the clock on her computer screen tick through every single one of them. Her stomach twisted into knots that had nothing to do with the lukewarm coffee she'd been nursing since Adrian disappeared into conference room B. She could see shapes moving behind the frosted glass, could hear raised voices occasionally breaking through the soundproofing. At one point, something heavy hit the table, a fist, maybe, or a briefcase slammed down for emphasis. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 3 reporters had somehow gotten her direct number. Her college roommate wanted to know if she was okay. Her mother had called twice more, and Elena was definitely not ready for that conversation. And James kept texting, increasingly worried messages that made guilt twist alongside the anxiety in her gut. Elena, seriously, call me when you can. The photos are everywhere. I just want to make sure you're all right. She should respond. Should tell him she was fine, that she'd explain everything tonight like she'd promised. But her fingers felt numb, and every time she tried to type something, the words dried up before they could form. Ms. Cross? Elena looked up to find David Chen, one of the junior associates, hovering by her desk, with the kind of expression people wore when approaching something that might explode. Yes? He shifted his weight. Is there anything you need? Coffee or, I don't know, anything. It was sweet, actually. David was 24 and nervous around everyone more senior than him, which in this building meant basically everyone. But right now he looked genuinely concerned. I'm fine, Elena said, managing what she hoped was a reassuring smile. Thank you, though. Okay, cool. Everyone's talking, and I wanted to make sure. He stopped, seemed to realize he was making it worse. Sorry, I'll just go. He fled back to his cubicle, and Elena resisted the urge to put her head down on her desk. Everyone was talking. Of course they were. By now the entire building probably knew that Adrian Vale had kissed his secretary in broad daylight on a midtown sidewalk. The security footage from the lobby definitely showed them arriving together, her lipstick smeared and his composure visibly cracked. This was a nightmare. Except it wasn't. That was the confusing part, because underneath the anxiety and the panic and the certainty that her career was imploding in real time, Elena felt something else entirely. She felt alive. The door to conference room B opened. Adrian walked out first, his expression carved from stone. Behind him came the board members, 8 men and 2 women who collectively controlled enough wealth to buy small countries. They looked furious. Every single one of them. Adrian didn't seem to care. He walked straight past Elena's desk without looking at her, into his office, and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed with that same terrible finality. Margaret Jo, the board's chairwoman, stopped at Elena's desk. She was 60, ruthless, and had a reputation for eating junior executives for breakfast. Ms. Cross, Elena stood automatically. Ms. Jo, I trust you understand the position you've put this company in. It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. I understand there's a situation. A situation. Margaret's smile was sharp enough to cut. Is that what we're calling it? Adrian Vale publicly engaging in a relationship with an employee, a direct report no less, isn't a situation. It's a liability. With respect, Ms. Jo, I'm not sure what you want me to say. I want you to understand that Vale Industries has protocols, standards, and what happened today violated both. She leaned closer, lowered her voice. I also want you to understand that you're not the first young woman to think she could manage Adrian Vale. And you won't be the last, but the smart ones know when to walk away before they get burned. Elena felt anger spark in her chest. I appreciate the advice. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're about to destroy a promising career for a man who goes through secretaries the way most people go through coffee. That wasn't true. Elena had been Adrian's secretary for 2 years, and before her, his previous assistant had lasted 4 years before retiring to start a family. But Margaret wasn't interested in facts. She was interested in control. Is there anything else? Elena asked, keeping her voice level. Margaret studied her for a long moment. You're tougher than you look, I'll give you that. But tough doesn't mean smart. Think about it. She walked away, heels clicking against the polished floor like gunshots. Elena sat back down, her hands shaking. She stared at Adrian's closed door and tried to decide if she should knock, if she should check on him, if he wanted space or company or... Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a news alert. Vale Industries CEO Adrian Vale. Caught in public display with secretary. Stock down 2% perfect. Just perfect. 20 minutes crawled by before Adrian's door opened again. Elena. Inside. She grabbed her tablet and walked into his office, closing the door behind her. Adrian was standing by the window, looking out at the city with his hands in his pockets. His tie was loosened, jacket discarded on the back of his chair. How bad? She asked. Bad. He didn't turn around. The board wants me to make a statement, something about how it was a misunderstanding, how we're maintaining professional boundaries, how it won't happen again. And you said? I told them to go to hell. Elena felt her stomach drop. Adrian, I'm not apologizing. Now he did turn, and the look on his face was fierce, determined. I'm not pretending it didn't happen or that it meant nothing. I'm done lying. The stock is down. It'll recover. Margaret thinks I'm destroying my career. Margaret thinks everyone who doesn't do exactly what she wants is making a mistake. Adrian crossed to her, took her hands. I need you to listen to me. This is going to get worse before it gets better. The press is going to dig into your life. People are going to say terrible things, and the board is going to push for consequences. What kind of consequences? They want you gone, fired or transferred, or, at minimum, reassigned. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena had known it was possible, but hearing it stated so bluntly made it real. Do they have the power to do that? No, I do. Adrian's grip on her hands tightened. And I'm not doing any of it. You stay exactly where you are. That's going to cause problems. I don't care. Adrian, you have to care. This company is mine, he interrupted. I built it. I own controlling shares, and I'm not going to let a board of people who've never taken a real risk in their lives tell me how to run it. Elena pulled her hands free, put some distance between them. She needed to think, and she couldn't do that when he was touching her. This isn't just about us. If the stock keeps dropping, if investors lose confidence, then I'll handle it. That's what I do. By doing what? Making more grand gestures? You can't fix this with confidence and aggression. Adrian's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do? Pretend it didn't happen? Send you away? No. But maybe we need to be strategic. Let things calm down. Keep some distance for a while until… No. Adrian, I said no. He closed the distance between them again, cupped her face in his hands. I spent 2 years keeping distance. 2 years pretending I didn't want you. I'm not doing it again. Elena closed her eyes. You're being stubborn. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Honest doesn't pay the bills when the board votes you out. They can't vote me out. I own 53% of the company. They can make your life hell, though. Adrian smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Let them try. I've dealt with worse than a board of entitled assholes who think they run things. There was a knock on the door. Marcus stuck his head in without waiting for permission. Sir, you have a visitor. I'm busy. It's Detective Ramirez. He says it's urgent. Adrian's expression went flat. Send him in. Elena started to leave, but Adrian caught her arm. Stay. If this is police business, stay. Detective Ramirez was exactly what Elena expected a New York detective to look like. Rumpled suit, tired eyes, the kind of face that had seen too much and stopped being surprised by any of it. He was maybe 50, with graying hair and a notepad that looked like it had been through a war. Mr. Vale? Miss Cross? He nodded to each of them. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a situation. What kind of situation? Adrian asked. The kind involving your display this afternoon. We've received a complaint. Elena felt her stomach drop. A complaint about what? Public indecency, harassment, workplace misconduct. Take your pick. Someone's trying to make noise. Ramirez flipped through his notepad. Normally, I wouldn't bother you with this kind of thing, but given your profile and the current media attention, my captain wanted me to follow up. Who filed the complaint? Adrian's voice was ice. Anonymous tip line. We get a lot of those. Usually, they're nothing. Ramirez looked at Elena. Ms. Cross, I need to ask, did Mr. Vale's actions today constitute unwanted advances? No, Elena said immediately. You're sure, because if there's any question of coercion or abuse of power, I'm sure. What happened was mutual. Ramirez made a note. And you're willing to state that officially? Yes. All right. He closed his notepad. That should handle it. But, Mr. Vale, a word of advice. Your lawyers might want to get ahead of this. Anonymous complaints have a way of becoming less anonymous when there's money involved. Meaning what? Adrian asked. Meaning someone's trying to cause problems. Could be a disgruntled employee, could be a competitor, could be someone who just doesn't like you. But they're not going to stop with one complaint. Ramirez headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Ms. Cross? You might want to change your route home for a few days. We've had reports of photographers staking out your building. When he left, Elena sat down heavily in one of Adrian's chairs. This is insane. This is expected. How is any of this expected? Adrian poured himself a drink from the bar cart in the corner. Whiskey, neat, expensive enough that the bottle probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent. When you have money and power, people try to take it. Or they try to take you down because they can't have what you have. This is just another version of that. It's not the same. This is personal. Everything is personal when you're in my position. He took a drink, stared at the amber liquid like it held answers. I've had people file lawsuits over handshake agreements, had business partners try to steal IP while smiling to my face, had board members leak confidential information to tank deals. Compared to that, an anonymous complaint is nothing. Elena rubbed her temples. A headache was building behind her eyes, the kind that promised to get worse before it got better. I need to go home. Not yet. Adrian, you heard Ramirez. There are photographers at your building. You go home now. You'll be on every gossip site by morning. I'll be on them anyway. Not like that. Not looking tired and stressed and alone. Adrian set down his glass, came to kneel in front of her chair. Stay here tonight. Elena laughed, the sound sharp and a little hysterical. Are you kidding? That would make everything 10 times worse. Only if people find out. People always find out. Not if we're careful. His hands found her knees, rested there with careful pressure. I have a private residence on the top floor. No one knows about it except Marcus and me. You can stay there, get some sleep, and in the morning we'll figure out next steps. Adrian, I can't. Yes, you can. And you should. He looked up at her, and the intensity in his eyes made her chest ache. Let me take care of you, just for tonight. It was a terrible idea. Elena knew it was a terrible idea, but she was exhausted and scared, and she really didn't want to face the photographers alone. Just for tonight, she echoed. Just for tonight. He was lying. They both knew he was lying, but Elena let him lead her to the private elevator anyway, let him key in a code she'd never seen before, let the doors close on the rest of the world. The penthouse was nothing like she'd expected. Elena had imagined something sterile and modern, all glass and chrome like the rest of the building. Instead, it was warm. Books lined one wall, real books with worn spines that suggested they'd actually been read. The furniture looked comfortable instead of expensive. There were photos, actual printed photos in frames, scattered on shelves and tables. You live here? She asked. Sometimes, when I'm working late and don't feel like going home. Adrian shrugged off his jacket, draped it over a chair. There's a bedroom through there, bathroom attached. Help yourself to whatever you need. Elena walked slowly through the space, taking it in. One photo caught her eye, a younger Adrian, maybe 20, standing next to an older man with the same gray eyes. Your father? Yeah. Adrian's voice went tight. He died 6 years ago, heart attack. I'm sorry. Don't be. We weren't close. But the way he said it suggested otherwise. Suggested a complicated relationship Elena didn't have the energy to unpack right now. Her phone buzzed. Again. She pulled it out, saw James's name, and felt guilt crash over her in a wave. I need to call him, she said. Adrian's expression shuddered. Now? I promised I'd explain, and putting it off is just making it worse. For a moment she thought he'd argue. Instead, he just nodded. I'll give you privacy. He disappeared into what looked like a home office, closing the door behind him. Elena stared at her phone for a long moment before finally calling James. He answered on the first ring. Elena, Jesus, are you okay? I'm fine. I'm sorry I didn't call earlier. Things have been insane. Yeah, I saw. It's all over the news. He paused. Is it true? You and Adrian Vale? Yes. The silence stretched. Elena could hear James breathing, could almost hear him processing. How long? He finally asked. Today. It just happened today. But you've wanted it longer. It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. Yes. More silence. Then, I'm an idiot. No, you're not. I am. I thought... He laughed, bitter. I thought you were just scared. That you needed someone to show you there were other options. I didn't realize you'd already made your choice. James, I'm sorry. You've been nothing but kind to me, and I should have been more honest about... Don't! His voice was sharp. Don't apologize for wanting what you want. That's not fair to either of us. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. You deserve better than this. Yeah, probably. But that's not your problem to solve. She heard him take a breath. For what it's worth, I hope it works out. I hope he's worth it. So do I. After she hung up, Elena sat on the couch and let herself cry. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that leaked out despite her best efforts to hold them in. She was tired. So tired, and scared, and exhilarated, and completely overwhelmed by everything that had changed in the span of a few hours. The office door opened. Adrian emerged, took one look at her, and crossed the room in 3 strides. What happened? Nothing. I'm fine. You're crying. I'm processing. Elena wiped her eyes, tried to pull herself together. He was good about it, better than I deserved. Adrian sat beside her, pulled her against his chest without asking. He's a fool. Why? Because he let you go. He didn't have a choice. I was never really his to lose. Elena closed her eyes, breathed in the scent of Adrian's cologne. I think I've been yours since the first day. She felt him tense. The first day? You were in a meeting with the Tokyo investors. I brought in coffee and you didn't even look at me, just kept talking like I was invisible. And I remember thinking that you were the most focused person I'd ever seen, like nothing in the world could distract you from what you wanted. Elena pulled back enough to look at him. I wanted to be what you wanted. Adrian's thumb traced her cheekbone, catching a stray tear. You are. I just didn't let myself admit it. Why not? Because wanting you meant losing control. And control is the only thing that's ever kept me alive in this world. He rested his forehead against hers. My father built an empire on ruthlessness and fear. When he died, everyone expected me to fail, to be too young, too soft, too different. So I became harder, colder. I made sure no one could find a weakness. And then I showed up. And then you showed up, he agreed, beautiful and competent and completely off limits. And every day you handed me coffee at exactly 8:47, and I died a little inside because I wanted you so badly and couldn't have you. Elena kissed him, soft and slow and sweet. You have me now. Do I? Yes. Even though it's complicated, even though people are going to make your life hell, even though. Elena pulled back, managed a smile, though I reserve the right to panic about it later. Fair enough. Adrian stood, held out his hand. Come on, you need sleep. The bedroom was as unexpected as the rest of the penthouse. A massive bed with soft sheets, blackout curtains, another wall of books. Adrian rummaged through a drawer and produced a t-shirt. It'll be too big, but it's clean. Elena took it, felt the soft cotton. Thank you. Bathroom's through there, towels in the cabinet. I'll be in the office if you need anything. You're not staying? Adrian's expression did something complicated. I'm trying to be respectful. I don't want respectful, not tonight. Elena set the t-shirt on the bed, crossed to him. I want you to stay. Elena, please. I don't want to be alone. She watched him war with himself, watched propriety fight with desire and lose spectacularly. Okay, I'll stay. They changed in separate rooms like awkward teenagers, which was ridiculous given what had happened earlier. But there was something different about this. Something more intimate than kissing in public or conference rooms. This was private. Real. When Elena emerged from the bathroom in Adrian's t-shirt, which did indeed swallow her whole, he was already in bed, reading something on his phone. He looked up when she appeared, and his expression went soft. Come here. She climbed into bed beside him, let him pull her close. His heart beat steady against her ear, and for the first time in hours, Elena felt herself relax. What happens tomorrow? She asked quietly. Tomorrow, we face whatever comes. Together. That's not a plan. It's the only plan I have. Adrian's fingers traced patterns on her back, soothing. I'm good at a lot of things, Elena, but I'm terrible at this. At relationships, at letting people in, at being vulnerable. So am I. Then we'll figure it out as we go. Elena tilted her head up to look at him. What if we can't? What if this falls apart? Then at least we tried. At least we were honest about what we wanted instead of hiding from it. He kissed her forehead. But I don't think it's going to fall apart. I think we're going to fight and struggle and probably make each other crazy. And I think it's going to be worth it. You sound very sure. I'm not, but I'm choosing to believe anyway. Elena settled back against his chest, closed her eyes. Okay, me too. They fell asleep like that, tangled together in the middle of Adrian's enormous bed. And for a few hours, the rest of the world stopped mattering. Elena woke to sunlight filtering through the curtains and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The kiss, the board meeting, the decision to stay. Adrian. She sat up, found herself alone in the bed. Voices drifted from the other room, Adrian's and someone else's, having a conversation in low, urgent tones. Elena grabbed her clothes from yesterday, changed quickly, and emerged to find Adrian talking with Marcus in the kitchen. Need to move the meeting to... Adrian stopped when he saw her. Morning. Morning. Elena accepted the coffee he offered, gratefully. What's going on? Marcus has news. None of it good. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her a series of headlines. They were worse than she'd expected. Photos of the kiss from multiple angles. Speculation about their relationship. Op-eds about workplace harassment and abuse of power. And worst of all, an interview with someone claiming to be a former Vail Industries employee, alleging a pattern of inappropriate behavior. That's bullshit, Elena said immediately. Of course it is, but it doesn't matter. Adrian took the phone back, tossed it on the counter with more force than necessary. People will believe what they want to believe. The board is meeting again this afternoon, Marcus added. Emergency session. They want blood. Let them want it. They're not getting mine. Adrian looked at Elena. But they might want yours. She understood what he wasn't saying. The board would push for her termination, would frame it as protecting the company, maintaining standards, doing the right thing. I'll resign, she heard herself say. No. Adrian, if it stops this, it won't stop anything. It'll just prove they can manipulate me through you. The answer is no. Then what do we do? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, decided. We go on offense. Meaning what? Meaning we stop defending and start attacking. We make a statement, a real one. We own this, and we make it clear that anyone who has a problem with it can deal with me directly. Marcus winced. Sir, that's exactly what we're doing. Set up a press conference for this afternoon before the board meeting. Adrian? Elena started, but he cut her off with a look. Trust me, please. She wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the ways this could go wrong, but she'd promised to trust him, and she meant it. Okay, what do you need me to do? Adrian smiled, fierce and determined. Stand next to me and don't flinch. The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock, which gave Elena exactly 4 hours to prepare for what was probably going to be the worst afternoon of her life. She went home first. Marcus drove her in one of the company SUVs with tinted windows, took a route that avoided the photographers still camped outside her building. She showered, changed into a dress that was professional but not apologetic, and stared at herself in the mirror, trying to find the version of Elena Cross who could stand in front of cameras and not fall apart. Her phone rang. Her mother. Elena closed her eyes, considered not answering, but that would just delay the inevitable. Hi, Mom. Elena Marie Cross? What in the name of all that's holy is going on? Her mother only used her full name when she was either furious or terrified. Right now it sounded like both. I'm assuming you saw the news. Saw it? Your cousin Teresa sent me links at 6 this morning. 6, Elena? I hadn't even had my coffee. Her mother's voice pitched higher. Is it true? Are you involved with your boss? Yes. The silence on the other end was deafening. Elena could picture her mother in the kitchen of her small house in Brooklyn, probably gripping the counter for support. Mom, say something. I'm trying to figure out if I should be worried or angry. Both seem reasonable. Elena. Her mother's voice softened. Baby, what are you doing? That man, he's dangerous. Not like criminals dangerous, but powerful, I know. Elena sat on the edge of her bed, suddenly exhausted despite the shower. I know what he is. I know what his world is like, and I'm doing it anyway. Why? Because I love him. The words came out before Elena could stop them. She hadn't even admitted it to herself yet, let alone said it out loud. But there it was, hanging in the air like truth always did, uncomfortable and undeniable. Oh, sweetheart, her mother sighed. Love doesn't pay the bills when you lose your job. Love doesn't protect you when those people decide you're in their way. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're throwing away everything you've worked for on a man who kisses you in public and starts wars with his own board. Elena laughed despite everything. That's a pretty accurate summary, yeah. This isn't funny. I know it's not. But Mom, you always told me to fight for what I wanted, to not let anyone make me small. That's what I'm doing. I meant in your career, in your life, not for some billionaire who sees me, Elena interrupted. Really sees me. Not as a tool or an assistant or someone to use. As a person, as an equal. She took a breath. I've spent 2 years being invisible, being perfect. And I'm tired. I'm tired of pretending I don't want this. Her mother was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle. Does he treat you well? Yes. Does he respect you? More than anyone else I've ever known. And if this all falls apart, if you lose everything? Elena thought about the question seriously, tried to imagine her life without Adrian, without this job, starting over from nothing. The thought should have terrified her. It didn't. Then I'll rebuild. But at least I'll have tried. You're stubborn, just like your father. Is that a compliment? I haven't decided yet. Her mother paused. Call me after this press conference. I want to know you're okay. I will. I promise. And Elena, if that man hurts you, I don't care how many billions he has. I'll make him regret it. Elena smiled, felt tears prick her eyes. Love you too, Mom. Marcus picked her up at 1:30. The drive back to Vale Industries felt surreal, like moving through a dream where everything looked normal, but nothing was. Traffic flowed, people walked dogs, delivery trucks blocked intersections. The world kept spinning, even though Elena's entire existence had tilted sideways. He's nervous, Marcus said suddenly. Elena looked up. What? Mr. Vale. He's nervous about the press conference. Won't admit it, but I can tell. How long have you worked for him? 8 years? Started as his driver, worked my way up to head of security. Marcus navigated around a taxi. I've seen him negotiate billion-dollar deals without blinking, watched him fire people who deserved it and some who didn't. Never seen him nervous before yesterday. And now? Now he's terrified. Because this isn't about money or power. This is about you. And that makes him vulnerable in ways he's never been before. Elena processed that. Does he talk to you about this? Not in so many words, but he asked me this morning if I thought he was making a mistake. First time he's ever asked my opinion on anything that wasn't security related. What did you tell him? Marcus smiled. I told him everyone makes mistakes. The question is whether they're worth making. The conference room at Vale Industries had been transformed into something out of a political campaign. Rows of chairs for press, a podium with the company logo, cameras everywhere. Elena's stomach dropped when she saw it. This is insane, she muttered. This is Adrian, Marcus corrected. He doesn't do anything small. Adrian was waiting in the antechamber, pacing like a caged animal. He stopped when he saw her, and something in his expression shifted, settled. You came. Of course I came. You asked me to. I know, but after everything... He shook his head. I wouldn't blame you if you'd gotten on a plane to anywhere else. Elena crossed to him, straightened his tie even though it didn't need straightening. We're in this together. Remember? Together. He caught her hand, pressed it against his chest. Elena, you don't have to do this. I can handle the press alone. You can watch from here or leave entirely, and no one would blame you. I would blame me. Why? Because you're about to walk into a room full of people who want to tear you apart, and I'm not letting you do that alone. She looked up at him. What's the plan exactly? I'm going to tell the truth. Which is? That we're together, that it started yesterday. that anyone who has a problem with it can take it up with me directly. Adrian's jaw tightened, and that if the board tries to force you out, I'll resign. Elena's heart stopped. You can't do that. I can. I will. Adrian, this company is your entire life. No. He pulled her closer. It was my entire life. Past tense. But you're here now. And I'm not choosing the company over you. I'm not choosing anything over you. That's insane. Probably, but I'm doing it anyway. He kissed her forehead. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. Do you? Know what you're doing? Not even a little bit, but I'm very good at faking it. A knock on the door. One of the PR assistants stuck her head in. Mr. Vale, they're ready for you. Adrian took a breath, squared his shoulders. Let's go. The conference room fell silent when they entered. Elena had never been on this side of a press conference before, had never felt the weight of dozens of eyes, the aggressive curiosity of reporters who smelled blood in the water. Adrian led her to the podium, positioned her slightly behind and to his left, close enough to be clearly together, far enough to not be hovering. Thank you all for coming on short notice, Adrian began, his voice carrying the same authority it always did. I'm going to make a statement, then take a limited number of questions. Photography is permitted, but anyone who shouts or interrupts will be removed. He paused, looked out at the sea of faces. Yesterday afternoon, I publicly demonstrated my personal feelings for Elena Cross, my executive assistant. The display was spontaneous, unplanned, and completely genuine. I'm not here to apologize for it or to explain it beyond this. I have feelings for Ms. Cross that go beyond professional boundaries. We are pursuing a relationship, and anyone who has concerns about that can address them to me directly. Hands shot up immediately. Questions shouted over each other. Adrian pointed to a reporter in the front row. Mr. Vale, isn't this a clear conflict of interest? How can Ms. Cross remain your employee while also being romantically involved with you? Ms. Cross is extraordinarily good at her job. Her performance has been exemplary for 2 years, and that won't change. We'll be implementing additional oversight to ensure there's no favoritism or inappropriate conduct. But she's keeping her position. Another reporter. What does the board think about this? The board has opinions. I'm sure they'll share them during our meeting later today. But ultimately, I control this company, and I'm making the decision that works for both the business and my personal life. Miss Cross, do you have anything to say? Elena froze. They weren't supposed to ask her questions. That hadn't been part of the plan. Adrian looked at her, a silent question in his eyes. She could decline, could stay silent, could let him handle this. Instead, she stepped forward to the microphone. I understand there are concerns about the nature of my relationship with Mr. Vale. I want to be clear that what happened yesterday was mutual. I care about Adrian deeply, and I'm choosing to pursue this relationship despite the complications. I'm also committed to maintaining my professional standards and ensuring that my work doesn't suffer. She paused. I know that won't satisfy everyone, but it's the truth. More questions, more shouting. Adrian fielded them with practiced ease, deflecting the invasive ones and answering what he could. Elena stood beside him and tried to look calm even though her heart was trying to break through her ribcage. Finally, Adrian called it, "That's all the time we have, thank you." They walked out together, ignoring the shouted follow-ups. In the hallway, Elena's legs nearly gave out. You did great, Adrian said, catching her elbow. I think I'm going to throw up. Bathroom's that way. I'll wait. Elena made it to the bathroom before the nausea hit. She splashed water on her face, stared at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked terrified. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're making a mistake. He destroys everything he touches. Then another. Gold digger? And another. You won't last a month. Elena turned off her phone. When she emerged, Adrian was waiting exactly where he'd said he'd be. He took one look at her face and pulled her into a quiet corner. What happened? Nothing. Just, people have opinions. Show me your phone. Adrian, show me. She handed it over, watched his expression go from concerned to furious as he scrolled through the messages. I'm going to find out who sent these. It doesn't matter. It does to me. He handed the phone back. Change your number. Today. Marcus will handle it. That's not going to stop people from having opinions. No, but it'll stop them from harassing you directly. Adrian checked his watch. I have the board meeting in 20 minutes. You should go home. I want to stay.
Elena, I want to stay, she repeated. I want to be here when you come out. I want them to see that I'm not going anywhere. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Pride, maybe? Or gratitude? Okay, wait in my office and lock the door. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. Elena spent them pacing Adrian's office, trying not to think about what was happening on the other side of the building. She answered emails, organized files that didn't need organizing, stared out the window at the city that suddenly felt hostile. Her new phone, Marcus had indeed handled it with terrifying efficiency, rang once. Her mother, checking in. Elena assured her everything was fine, which was only partially a lie. When the office door finally opened, Elena spun around expecting Adrian. It was Margaret Joe. Ms. Cross, we need to talk. Elena straightened her spine, called on every ounce of professionalism she'd ever learned. Miss Joe, I wasn't aware you had access to this office. I have access to everything in this building. Margaret closed the door behind her, studied Elena like a particularly interesting specimen. The board just voted. Elena's stomach dropped. And Adrian is still CEO. For now, but there are conditions. What kind of conditions? You resign, voluntarily. Take a generous severance package and disappear quietly. Adrian keeps his position, the company avoids a prolonged scandal, and everyone moves on. And if I don't? Margaret smiled. Then we make your life extremely difficult. We audit every piece of work you've ever done. We investigate every expense report, every decision, every email. We find something. We always find something. And we use it to destroy your reputation so thoroughly that you'll never work in this industry again. Elena felt cold. That's illegal. Prove it. You're a secretary going up against a board of billionaires. How do you think that ends? I think it ends with Adrian fighting back. Adrian can't fight the entire board and run the company. Eventually, he'll have to choose. And when he does, you'll be the one who suffers. Margaret moved closer. I'm offering you a way out, a clean break. Take it. No. Excuse me? I said no. I'm not resigning. I'm not disappearing. And I'm definitely not letting you bully me into making Adrian choose between me and his company. Elena met her gaze straight on. So you can take your generous severance package and your threats and get out of this office. Margaret's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. Seems to be a theme today. This isn't a game, Ms. Cross. These are powerful people with resources you can't imagine. They will destroy you. Let them try. For a long moment, Margaret just stared at her. Then she laughed, sharp and bitter. You know what? I almost respect you. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which. Can it be both? Adrian was right about you. You're tougher than you look. Margaret headed for the door, paused with her hand on the handle. But tough doesn't mean invincible. Watch your back, Ms. Cross. Not everyone fights fair. When she left, Elena sat down heavily in Adrian's chair. Her hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against the desk, tried to breathe through the fear. The door opened again. This time it was Adrian, and he looked exhausted, wrung out. His tie was gone, his shirt wrinkled, and there were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there this morning. Hey, Elena said softly. Hey. He crossed to her, pulled her up from the chair and into his arms, just held her. Margaret came to see you. How did you know? Security footage. I had Marcus watching. His arms tightened. What did she offer you? Money to leave? Threats if I stay? And you said? I told her to get out. Adrian pulled back enough to look at her. You didn't have to do that. You could have taken the deal. I don't want the deal. I want this. I want you. Elena cupped his face in her hands. What happened in the meeting? They tried to force me out. I told them if they pushed, I'd burn the entire company down before I let them have it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We reached a compromise.
What kind of compromise? You keep your job. I keep mine. But we have to implement new policies, oversight committees, ethics reviews, regular audits of our departments. Basically, they're going to watch us like hawks waiting for us to slip up. And if we do, then they have grounds to remove me. And you. Adrian sat on the edge of the desk, pulled her between his legs. So we can't slip up, ever. Elena rested her forehead against his. This is exhausting. Yes, I'm scared. Me too. But you're not backing down. No. Are you? She thought about Margaret's threats, about the messages on her phone, about her mother's worry and the press conference and the sheer insanity of everything that had happened in the last 36 hours. No, she said, I'm not backing down. Good. Adrian kissed her, slow and thorough, because I have something to tell you. That sounds ominous. There's a family gathering this weekend, my mother's birthday. The entire Vale family will be there, plus various business associates and social climbers. He paused. I want you to come with me. Elena blinked. As your date? As my partner. I want them to meet you. Want them to see that you're not temporary or a phase or whatever story they're telling themselves. Adrian, that's a lot. We've been together for one day. I know, but in my world, hesitation looks like weakness. If we're doing this, we need to be all in, completely committed, no doubts. His hands found hers, held tight. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm just asking you to stand beside me at a party and let my family see that I've chosen you, that you're important. Elena's heart hammered. This was moving so fast, too fast. But then again, everything about them had been too fast. 2 years of carefully suppressed feelings followed by an explosion that changed everything. Okay, E, she heard herself say. Okay? I'll go to the party. I'll meet your family. I'll stand beside you. She managed a smile. But I'm going to need a really good dress. Adrian laughed, and it sounded like relief. I'll have something sent over. I can buy my own dress. I know you can, but I want to do this. Let me. There was something in his voice, a need to provide, to take care of her in the ways he knew how. Elena understood it, even if it made her uncomfortable. Fine, but nothing too expensive. I'm not making promises I can't keep. They stayed like that for a while, just holding each other in the quiet of his office. Outside, the sun was setting, turning the sky orange and pink. The city glittered below them, millions of lights coming on as darkness fell. I told my mother I love you, Elena said suddenly. Adrian went very still. What? This morning, on the phone. She asked why I was doing this, and I told her it's because I love you. Elena pulled back enough to look at him. I didn't mean to say it. It just came out. Do you? His voice was careful, controlled. Love me? Yes. I think I have for a while now. She traced the line of his jaw. I know it's too soon to say that. I know we're supposed to take things slow and be reasonable, but nothing about this has been reasonable, so why start now? Adrian's hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. I love you too. Have since the day you told me the Tokyo investors were being unreasonable and someone needed to handle them before they walked. You were 3 weeks into the job, and you were terrified, but you said it anyway. I thought you were going to fire me. I thought about kissing you, right there in front of everyone. I didn't, obviously, but I wanted to. He kissed her now, soft and sweet. I've wanted you for so long that I forgot what it felt like to not want you. Elena felt tears slip down her cheeks, happy tears this time. We're a mess. We really are. Your board hates me. They hate everyone. It's not personal. The press thinks I'm using you for money. The press can think whatever they want. I know the truth. Elena laughed through the tears. What's the truth? That you're brilliant and stubborn and you make me want to be better than I am. That you see through all the bullshit to who I actually am underneath. That you're not impressed by money or power, which makes you the only person in my life who isn't trying to take something from me. Adrian wiped her tears with his thumbs. The truth is, I'm terrified of losing you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen. Even if it means burning your company down? Even then, though I'd prefer to avoid that if possible. Me too. I look terrible in orange, and I assume prison jumpsuits don't come in other colors. Adrian laughed, pulled her close again. No prison. I promise. That's a bold promise, considering we're about to walk into a room full of your family. My family is... He paused, searching for words. Complicated. My mother is lovely but weak. My brother is an entitled asshole. And my uncle has been trying to take control of the company since my father died. They're going to see you as a target. Comforting. But you're not going to let them intimidate you, because you're Elena Cross. And you once told the Japanese Minister of Trade that his offer was insulting and he should come back when he was serious about negotiating. I thought I was going to have a heart attack during that conversation. You didn't show it. You never show fear, even when you're terrified. Adrian pulled back, looked at her seriously. That's what I need this weekend. I need you to be exactly who you are. Don't try to impress them. Don't let them make you feel small. Just be yourself. And if myself isn't good enough, then they're idiots, and we'll know where we stand. Elena took a breath. Okay, I can do that. I know you can. He glanced at his watch. It's almost 8. Have you eaten? No. Have you? No. Let's get out of here. I know a place. The place turned out to be a small Italian restaurant in the village, the kind of spot that didn't take reservations unless you were Adrian Vale. They sat in a back corner booth, ordered wine and pasta, and pretended for 2 hours that they were normal people on a normal date. It was nice. Almost perfect. Until Elena's phone rang. She didn't recognize the number, but something made her answer anyway. Hello? Ms. Cross? A woman's voice, professional but urgent. This is Detective Ramirez's partner, Detective Chen. We need you to come to the station. Elena's stomach dropped. Why? What's wrong? There's been an incident. Someone broke into your apartment. The restaurant noise faded to background static. Elena felt Adrian's hand find hers under the table, grounding her. Was anything stolen? We're not sure yet, but Ms. Cross, whoever did this, left a message, and we think you need to see it. The message was written in red paint across Elena's bedroom wall in letters 2 feet high. Stay away from what isn't yours. Elena stood in the doorway of her apartment, staring at the words while crime scene techs moved around taking photos and dusting for prints. Her hands were shaking. She shoved them in her pockets so no one would see. Adrian stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. His grip was tight enough to hurt, but Elena didn't pull away. The pain helped, gave her something to focus on besides the violation of seeing her private space turned into a crime scene. They came through the fire escape, Detective Chen said, consulting her notes. She was younger than Ramirez, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Broke the lock. Took their time too. Your neighbor heard noise around 7, but assumed it was you. What did they take? Adrian's voice was cold, dangerous. That's the strange part. Nothing, as far as we can tell. They went through her things, definitely. Opened drawers, moved stuff around, but the laptop's still here, jewelry's still here, even cash on the dresser wasn't touched. So this wasn't about robbery, Elena said quietly. No, ma'am, this was about sending a message. Chen looked at Adrian. Any idea who might want to threaten Miss Cross? Adrian's laugh was bitter. How much time do you have? Sir, I need you to take this seriously. I am taking it seriously, that's the problem. Elena became a target the moment our relationship went public. Could be business rivals. Could be someone with a grudge against me. Could be a board member trying to scare her off. His hand tightened on Elena's shoulder. The list is longer than you want to know. Elena pulled away from him, walked into her apartment. It looked wrong, familiar but contaminated. Her books had been pulled off the shelf and stacked in neat piles on the floor. Her closet doors hung open, clothes pushed aside like someone had been searching for something. In the bathroom, her medicine cabinet stood open, pill bottles lined up on the counter with military precision. They were organized, she said, picking up one of the bottles. Whoever did this wasn't just vandalizing, they were looking for something. Or trying to make you think they were, Chen said. Sometimes the disorganization is the point. make you feel unsafe in your own space. Well, it worked. Elena set the bottle down, wrapped her arms around herself. Can I stay here? Tonight? I wouldn't recommend it, not until we finish processing the scene, and even then, Chen gestured at the broken fire escape lock. You'd need new locks at minimum, maybe a security system. She's not staying here. Adrian's voice left no room for argument. She's coming with me. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle this, that she wouldn't be scared out of her own home. But the truth was, she was terrified. The thought of sleeping in her bed knowing someone had been in here, touched her things, violated her space, it made her skin crawl. Okay, she said quietly. Let me just grab some clothes. Don't touch anything yet, Chen said. We need to finish documenting. Give us another hour, then you can pack what you need. They waited in the hallway. Adrian made phone calls to Marcus, to someone named Garrett, who was apparently a private security consultant, to his lawyer. Elena sat on the floor with her back against the wall and tried to process what was happening. 2 days ago, her biggest concern had been whether Adrian noticed when she wore the green blouse. Now someone had broken into her apartment to threaten her. Now she was in danger just for existing in Adrian's orbit. This is my fault, Adrian said, ending his call and sliding down the wall to sit beside her. How is someone breaking into my apartment your fault? Because I made you a target. I knew this could happen, knew that getting involved with me would put you in danger, and I did it anyway. Elena looked at him, really looked at him. He was furious, she realized, not at her, at himself, at the situation, at whoever had done this. You didn't break into my apartment, she said. I might as well have. This is because of me, because I couldn't keep my hands off you for one more day, because I had to kiss you in public like a... He stopped, ran his hands through his hair. I should have protected you better. Adrian, you can't control everything. I can control this. I can find out who did it and make sure they regret it. The way he said it made Elena's stomach flip. There was violence in his voice, real violence, the kind that came from someone who knew exactly how much damage they could do and was willing to do it. We should let the police handle it, she said carefully. The police can handle the legal part. I'll handle the rest. What does that mean? Adrian looked at her, and his eyes were cold. It means whoever did this is going to wish they hadn't. Before Elena could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer, but something made her check the screen. It was a text. A photo. Of her. Walking into Adrian's building that morning. The message underneath said, "You've been warned." Elena's hands went numb. She showed Adrian the phone, watched his expression go from cold to murderous. That's it. He stood up, pulled out his own phone. Marcus, I need a full security detail on Elena, 24/7, and I want surveillance on everyone who's contacted her in the last week. I don't care if it's legal, just do it. Adrian, you can't... Watch me. He was pacing now, all controlled fury and sharp edges. They want to threaten you? Fine. They're about to learn what happens when they come after what's mine. Elena stood, caught his arm. Stop. Just stop for a second and think. I'm thinking about how to keep you safe. By what? Starting a war? That's going to make everything worse. It's going to make them think twice before trying this again. Or it's going to escalate things until someone gets hurt. Elena pulled him around to face her. I'm scared too. I'm terrified. But we need to be smart about this, not just aggressive. Adrian stared at her for a long moment. Then some of the tension drained from his shoulders. You're right. I know you're right. But Elena, if something happened to you, nothing's going to happen to me, because we're going to figure this out, together. Like we said. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. I can't lose you. You won't. Detective Chen emerged from the apartment. Ms. Cross, you can pack now, but make it quick, and don't touch the bedroom wall. We're still processing it. Elena packed mechanically. Clothes, toiletries, her laptop, and work files. She tried not to look at the red letters on her wall, but they were impossible to ignore. Every time she glanced in that direction, her stomach twisted. When she emerged with her suitcase, Adrian took it from her without a word. They rode down in the elevator in silence, got into the car where Marcus was waiting. I've arranged for a security team, Marcus said as they pulled away from Elena's building. 2 guards will be stationed outside Mr. Vale's residence. 2 more will rotate on Miss Cross during the day. I don't need guards, Elena protested. Yes, you do, Adrian said flatly. And you're getting them, whether you like it or not. This is insane. This is necessary. Marcus, what else? Garrett's team is analyzing the surveillance footage from Ms. Cross's building. They should have something by morning. And I've reached out to our contacts at NYPD. Detective Chen's good, but I want to make sure this gets priority attention. Elena leaned her head against the window, watched the city slide past. This didn't feel real. None of it felt real. 3 days ago, she'd been having lunch with James, contemplating a normal life. Now she had armed guards, and someone was sending her threatening photos. I need to call my mother, she said suddenly. Adrian handed her his phone. Use mine, yours might be compromised. Of course it might be, because why not? Why not add phone hacking to the list of violations? Her mother answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Mom, it's me. Elena? Whose number is this? Adrian's. Mom, I need you to listen to me. Someone broke into my apartment tonight. The sharp intake of breath on the other end was immediate. Are you hurt? No, I wasn't there, but they left a message, a threat. The police are involved, but I wanted you to know in case… She paused. In case they try to get to me through you. Through me? Elena, what have you gotten yourself into? I don't know yet, but I need you to be careful. Don't open the door for anyone you don't know. Don't give out information about me. And if anything feels wrong, call the police immediately. You're scaring me. I'm sorry, but I need you to take this seriously. There was a long pause. Then her mother's voice steadier now. Are you safe right now? Yes, I'm with Adrian. He has security. Good. Keep it that way. Another pause. Baby, maybe it's time to step back from this. From him, before it gets worse. Elena looked at Adrian, who was staring straight ahead, but definitely listening. I can't do that. Why not? Because I love him, and because I'm not going to let someone scare me into giving up what I want. Her mother sighed. You're so stubborn. I get it from you. Fair enough. Call me tomorrow. And Elena, be careful. I will, I promise. When she hung up, Adrian reached for her hand. Your mother thinks this is my fault. She thinks I should walk away before someone gets hurt. She's probably right. Elena squeezed his hand. Probably, but I'm not doing it. They arrived at Vale Industries and took the private elevator up to Adrian's penthouse. It felt different tonight, less like a refuge and more like a fortress. Elena could see the security cameras in the corners, the reinforced locks on the doors, all the little details she'd missed before. Marcus left them with a promise to update them in the morning. Adrian locked the door behind him, set the security system, then turned to Elena. I know you're trying to be strong, he said quietly, but you don't have to be. Not with me. That's all it took. The careful control Elena had been maintaining since the phone call shattered. She started crying, not quiet tears, but actual sobs that shook her whole body. Adrian caught her before she could collapse, carried her to the couch, held her while she fell apart. I'm sorry, she gasped. I'm sorry, I just… Don't apologize. Just let it out. So she did. She cried for the violation of her apartment, for the fear that had settled in her chest like a stone, for the loss of the simple life she'd thought she wanted. She cried for her mother's worry and James's kindness, and the fact that everything was so complicated and dangerous and wrong. When the tears finally stopped, Elena felt hollow, used up. Adrian was still holding her, one hand stroking her hair with gentle repetition. Better? He asked. Not really, but I'm done crying about it. You're allowed to cry. I know, but it doesn't change anything. Someone still broke into my apartment. Someone still wants me gone. And I still have to face your family this weekend, like everything's fine. Adrian pulled back enough to look at her. We can cancel. Tell them you're not feeling well. That would be running away. That would be being sensible. Since when do we do sensible? Elena managed a weak smile. No, we go. We show them I'm not scared, even if I am. You're incredible, you know that? I'm terrified and angry, and I probably smell like crime scene. Still incredible. He kissed her forehead. Come on, let's get you in the shower, then sleep. Everything else can wait until tomorrow. 14. The shower helped. Hot water and expensive soap washed away some of the fear, if not all of it. Elena stood under the spray until her skin turned pink, trying to scrub away the feeling of violation. When she emerged, Adrian had laid out pajamas on the bed, the same t-shirt from the night before, soft and oversized and smelling like him. She pulled it on, crawled under the covers, and waited. Adrian joined her a few minutes later, fresh from his own shower. He pulled her against his chest, wrapped his arms around her like he could physically shield her from the world. I'm going to find out who did this, he said into the darkness, and I'm going to make sure they can't hurt you again. How? I have resources, people who owe me favors. I'll start with the board, see if anyone's made unusual moves in the last few days. Then I'll look at business rivals, anyone who might want to destabilize me by going after you. Elena traced patterns on his chest, thinking, what if it's not about business? What do you mean? What if it's personal? What if someone just doesn't like me? Doesn't think I belong in your world? Then they're about to learn that their opinion doesn't matter. Adrian's arms tightened. You do belong in my world. You belong with me, and anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is going to regret it. Elena wanted to believe him, wanted to feel as certain as he sounded, but doubt gnawed at her. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe she was in over her head. Maybe loving Adrian wasn't enough when his world was this dangerous. Stop, Adrian said quietly. Stop what? Stop thinking about leaving. I can feel you pulling away. I'm not. You are. You're lying here trying to convince yourself this is too much, that you should walk away before it gets worse. He shifted, propped himself up to look at her. Don't, please. Whatever doubts you're having, talk to me about them. Don't just decide we're over without giving me a chance to fight for us. Elena met his eyes in the dim light. You really think this is going to work? Us against the world? I think we have a better chance together than apart. I think you make me better. I think I make you braver. And I think if we give up now, we'll regret it for the rest of our lives. That's a lot of thinking. I've had 2 years to think about it. I'm pretty confident in my conclusions. Despite everything, Elena smiled. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of us. That's different. Adrian kissed her, soft and slow. I love you. I'm going to keep loving you, and I'm going to keep fighting for this until you tell me to stop. And if I tell you to stop, then I'll stop, because your choice matters more than what I want. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But I really hope you don't. Elena thought about the message on her wall, about the fear and the danger and all the very good reasons she should walk away. Then she thought about the alternative, going back to her old life, pretending she'd never felt this, never wanted this. I'm not going to tell you to stop, she said. No? No, because you're right, I would regret it, and I'm done living my life trying to avoid regrets. Adrian's smile was brilliant, relieved. Good, because I have a plan for tomorrow. Of course you do. We go to the police station, give our statements. Then we go to the office and act like everything's normal. Show whoever did this that they didn't scare us off. That's your plan? Act normal? And make some very aggressive business moves that will send a message to anyone thinking about trying this again. Adrian's expression hardened. I'm done playing defense. Time to remind people why they should be afraid of me, not the other way around. What kind of aggressive moves? Better you don't know the details. Plausible deniability and all that? Elena should probably be concerned. Should maybe point out that revenge schemes rarely ended well. But she was tired and scared, and honestly, the idea of Adrian unleashing his full power on whoever had threatened her was kind of appealing. Just don't do anything that'll get you arrested, she said. I have very good lawyers. They'll make sure I stay on the right side of legal. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. He pulled her close again, settled them into sleeping position. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Elena closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. Every time she started to drift off, she saw red letters on her wall. Heard footsteps in her apartment that shouldn't be there. Felt the violation of knowing someone had touched her things. Invaded her space. All to send a message. Stay away from what isn't yours. But Adrian wasn't an object to be claimed. He was a person who'd chosen her, who loved her, who was willing to fight the entire world to keep her, and she'd be damned if she'd let some anonymous threat drive her away. Elena must have finally fallen asleep because the next thing she knew, sunlight was streaming through the windows and Adrian was gone. She sat up, panic spiking, then heard his voice from the other room. Don't care what it takes. I want names by noon. Everyone who had access to that building in the last 48 hours. Everyone who's made unusual financial transactions. Everyone who's been asking questions about Elena. I want a full report. Elena climbed out of bed, followed his voice to the kitchen. Adrian was standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, looking every inch the dangerous billionaire in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. He saw her, and his expression softened. I'll call you back, he said into the phone, then hung up. Morning? Morning, you're dressed. I have a meeting in an hour, but I had breakfast sent up. He gestured to the counter where pastries and coffee waited. How'd you sleep? Eventually. Elena poured herself coffee, added cream and sugar. What meeting? With Garrett and his team. They've been working all night analyzing footage and tracking digital footprints. Adrian came to stand beside her, pressed a kiss to her temple. We'll find who did this. And then what? And then I deal with them. The way he said it made Elena shiver. There was promise in his voice, promise of consequences. Adrian, I know what you're going to say, that revenge doesn't solve anything, that we should let the legal system handle it, and we will, for the official record. But Elena, people in my world only understand power. If I don't respond to this with overwhelming force, it sends a message that you're an acceptable target, that I'm weak because I care about you. So you're going to what?
Destroy whoever did this, if necessary. He took her coffee cup, set it down, pulled her into his arms. I need you to understand something. In my world, mercy is seen as weakness. Forgiveness is seen as defeat. If I want to protect you, really protect you, I have to make sure everyone knows that touching you means war. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also necessary. Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I'm not asking you to approve of my methods. I'm just asking you to trust that I know how to navigate my world. Elena thought about it, about the board's threats and Margaret's warnings and the message on her wall, about the fact that she'd stepped into a world where power was currency and weakness was fatal. Okay, she said finally. I trust you. But Adrian, don't lose yourself in this. Don't become the kind of person who destroys others just because you can. I won't, I promise. He kissed her, gentle and thorough. Now get dressed. We have statements to give. The police station was exactly as depressing as Elena expected. Fluorescent lights, tired cops, the smell of bad coffee and worse decisions. Detective Chen met them in the lobby, led them to separate interview rooms. Standard procedure, she explained. We need independent statements. Elena spent 90 minutes answering questions. What time had she left her apartment yesterday? Who knew her address? Had she noticed anyone following her? Had she received any threats before last night? She answered honestly, even though it meant admitting she'd been staying at Adrian's penthouse. Chen's expression didn't change, but Elena could read the judgment anyway. When they finally let her go, Adrian was waiting in the lobby. He stood when he saw her, concern written across his face. You okay? Tired of answering questions. You? Same. They wanted to know about business rivals, enemies, anyone who might have a grudge against me. He took her hand as they walked out. Apparently the list is longer than I thought. Comforting. Marcus is bringing the car around. We'll head to the office, make an appearance, then I have to meet with Garrett. Can I come? To the meeting? Adrian stopped walking. You want to sit in on a security briefing? I want to know what's happening. This is my life they're investigating. I should be part of the conversation. For a moment, she thought he'd argue. Then he nodded. Okay, you're right. You should be there. The meeting was in a conference room Elena had never seen before, smaller than the others, no windows, soundproofed walls. Garrett was already there when they arrived, along with two people Elena didn't recognize. Garrett himself was exactly what she'd pictured, ex-military bearing, close-cropped hair going gray, eyes that cataloged everything. He stood when they entered. Mr. Vale, Miss Cross? Garrett, what do you have? Garrett pulled up a series of photos on the screen. The break-in was professional. Clean entry, no prints, they knew where the cameras were and how to avoid them. Whoever did this has done this before. So we're looking at a professional? Adrian asked. Possibly, or someone with access to professional resources. Garrett clicked to another image. Elena's building at night, a figure in a hoodie approaching the fire escape. This is from a camera across the street, best shot we got. But see here? He zoomed in. The gate, the build. This is a woman. 5'6", athletic build, knows how to move without drawing attention. Elena stared at the blurry figure. A woman. For some reason, that made it worse. Can you identify her? Adrian asked. Not from this footage, but we're running facial recognition on everyone who entered and exited the building in the 48 hours before the break-in. We're also tracking the paint used for the message. It's a specific brand, expensive, sold primarily to art stores and professional painters. So we're looking for a professional with art supplies, Elena said. That narrows it down. It's a start. Garrett clicked to another screen, this one showing a list of names. We also analyzed Ms. Cross's phone records. The threatening texts came from a burner, but they were sent from cell towers in Midtown, specifically within 6 blocks of Vale Industries. Adrian's expression went cold. Someone from the company, possibly, or someone who spends a lot of time near the company. Garrett highlighted several names on the list. These are people who had both access to Ms. Cross's personal information and were in the area when the texts were sent. Elena scanned the names. Most she didn't recognize, but one jumped out at her. Sarah Chen, she said quietly. Adrian looked at her. Who? She used to work in HR. I had to fire her about 6 months ago for falsifying expense reports. She didn't take it well, threatened to sue, said I'd regret it. Elena felt sick. I thought she was just angry. I didn't think, we'll look into her, Garrett said, making a note. Anyone else? Margaret Joe, Adrian said flatly. Elena turned to stare at him. You think a board member broke into my apartment? I think Margaret has resources and motivation. She wants you gone. This would be an effective way to accomplish that. But she came to my office, offered me money to leave. Why would she do that if she was planning to threaten me anyway? Because Margaret always has multiple strategies running simultaneously. The carrot and the stick. Adrian looked at Garrett. Check her movements yesterday. See if there's anything unusual. The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed security protocols, surveillance upgrades, potential suspects. By the end, Elena's head was spinning with information and possibilities. When Garrett and his team finally left, Elena slumped in her chair. This is insane. This is thorough, Adrian corrected. We're not taking any chances. Adrian, we're investigating board members and ex-employees and I don't even know who else. This is paranoia. This is survival. He came to kneel in front of her chair. Someone threatened you, violated your home. I'm not going to wait for them to escalate before we figure out who it is. Elena touched his face, felt the tension in his jaw. You're scared, terrified, because if something happened to you, He stopped, took a breath. I can't think about it. I can't let myself imagine it. So instead, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen. By declaring war on everyone who might be a threat? If that's what it takes. Elena pulled him up, into her lap, wrapped her arms around him. We're going to be okay, both of us. We're going to figure this out. How are you so calm? I'm not. I'm faking it, like you taught me. Adrian laughed despite everything. I'm a terrible influence. Probably. But you're my terrible influence. Elena kissed him. Now, what's this family gathering tomorrow? Tell me everything so I know what I'm walking into. Adrian groaned. Do we have to? Yes, because I'm going, and I'd rather not be completely blindsided.
Fine, but you're not going to like it. He was right. Elena didn't like it at all. The Vale family estate was in the Hamptons, naturally, because where else would people with generational wealth throw birthday parties? Elena stared out the car window as they drove through iron gates that probably cost more than her childhood home. The driveway was lined with trees that looked professionally maintained, grass so perfect it seemed fake, and a house that was less a house and more a monument to excess. White columns, wraparound porches, windows that glittered in the afternoon sun.
Stop looking so terrified, Adrian said from beside her. I'm not terrified, I'm just… Elena searched for the right word, calculating how many years of my salary it would take to afford the landscaping. Don't! You'll depress yourself. Too late. The dress Adrian had sent over hung in a garment bag in the trunk, midnight blue silk that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Elena had tried it on that morning and felt like a fraud, like a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's closet. Marcus pulled the car around to the front entrance where a valet was already waiting. Of course there was a valet. Why wouldn't there be a valet? Remember what I said, Adrian murmured as they got out. You belong here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Even if I don't belong here? Especially then. He took her hand, threaded their fingers together. Ready? Not even a little bit. They walked in together. The foyer was full of people. Women in designer dresses, men in suits that screamed old money, servers circulating with champagne and canapes that were probably meant to be eaten in one bite, but looked too pretty to touch. Everyone turned when Adrian entered. Elena felt the weight of their stares, felt them cataloging her dress, her shoes, her hair, calculating her net worth and finding it lacking. Adrian, darling! A woman in her 60s swept toward them, all elegant silver hair and pearls. You're late. Traffic was terrible. Mother, this is Elena Cross. Elena, my mother, Catherine Vale. Catherine's smile was warm, but her eyes were assessing. Ms. Cross, I've heard so much about you. All of it from the news, I assume, Elena said before she could stop herself. To her surprise, Catherine laughed. Most of it, yes. But Adrian called yesterday and told me the real story, or his version of it anyway. There's only one version, Adrian said, the truth. Which is that you've fallen madly in love with your secretary and decided to make everyone's life complicated in the process. Catherine patted his cheek fondly. You're so much like your father, always choosing the difficult path when an easy one exists. The difficult path is usually more interesting and more dangerous, but that never stopped him either. Catherine turned to Elena. Come, let me introduce you to people. Adrian can fend for himself for 5 minutes. Before Elena could protest, Catherine had linked their arms and was steering her away from Adrian. Elena glanced back, caught his reassuring smile, then let herself be led into the crowd. First rule of Vale family gatherings, Catherine said quietly. Everyone is performing, everyone has an agenda, and very few people will tell you the truth unless it benefits them. That's comforting. It's realistic. You're going to meet my brother-in-law, Richard. He's been trying to take control of Vale Industries since my husband died. You'll meet Adrian's brother, Daniel, who's bitter that Adrian got the company instead of him. And you'll meet about 50 other people who will smile to your face and gossip about you the moment you turn around. Elena stopped walking. Why are you telling me this? Catherine studied her with sharp eyes. Because I like you. Because you make my son happy in a way I haven't seen in years. And because I'd rather you be prepared than blindsided. She paused. Also because I'm curious how you'll handle it. Adrian's father used to say you could tell everything about a person by how they dealt with sharks. And your family are the sharks? Some of them. Others are just remors hoping to feed on scraps. Catherine smiled. But don't worry, Adrian's the biggest predator in the water. As long as you're with him, you're safe. They continued into the party. Catherine made introductions, so many names and faces that Elena stopped trying to remember them all. She smiled, shook hands, accepted champagne she didn't want, and tried to look like she belonged. Then she met Richard. Adrian's uncle was in his late 50s, well-preserved, with the kind of tan that came from too much golf and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. So you're the famous Elena, he said, looking her up and down in a way that made her skin crawl.
The secretary who captured my nephew's attention. Executive assistant? Elena corrected automatically. Of course, important distinction. His smile widened. Tell me, how does one go from filing paperwork to dating the boss? Is there a manual I should be aware of? Elena felt her temper spike. There's no manual, just mutual attraction and 2 years of professionalism that we finally stopped maintaining. 2 years. How patient of you both. Richard sipped his drink. Adrian's always been impulsive. His father was the same way, made decisions based on emotion rather than logic. It's why the company struggled under his leadership. The company didn't struggle, Elena said coolly. It grew by 40% under his father's tenure. Did it? I must have misremembered. But his eyes said he remembered just fine. Well, enjoy the party, my dear. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of each other. Assuming you last, of course. He walked away before Elena could respond. She stood there, gripping her champagne glass so tight she worried it might shatter. That's Uncle Richard, said a voice beside her. Professional asshole, don't take it personally. Elena turned to find a younger version of Adrian. Same eyes, same build, but with a harder edge and a smile that suggested he enjoyed other people's discomfort. Daniel, he said, extending his hand, the disappointing brother. Elena, the controversial girlfriend. Oh, I like you already. Daniel grinned. Walk with me. Let's escape these people for a minute. Elena hesitated, but something in his expression suggested genuine friendliness. She followed him out onto a terrace overlooking the ocean. Fair warning, Daniel said, leaning against the railing. I'm about to tell you things that will make you question your relationship. Not because I'm trying to break you up, but because you deserve to know what you're getting into. I already know it's complicated. Complicated doesn't begin to cover it. Daniel lit a cigarette, offered her one. She declined. Adrian and I used to be close, when we were kids before Dad died and everything went to hell. He was the responsible one. I was the screw-up. Classic dynamic. What happened? Dad left everything to Adrian, the company, the money, the legacy, left me a trust fund and a board seat I never wanted. Daniel exhaled smoke. I was angry for a long time. Felt like Dad was saying Adrian was worth more, that I wasn't good enough. That must have hurt. It did. Still does sometimes. He looked at her. But here's the thing. Adrian didn't ask for it. Didn't want the pressure or the responsibility or the weight of carrying on Dad's legacy. He did it anyway because that's who he is. He does what's expected, even when it kills him. Lena thought about Adrian's face when he talked about his father, the careful control, the walls. Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to see a lot of people tonight who resent Adrian, who think he doesn't deserve what he has, or that he's too young, or too ruthless, or whatever story they tell themselves. And I want you to know that underneath all that power and control, he's just a guy who lost his dad too young and spent 6 years trying to live up to an impossible standard. Daniel stubbed out his cigarette. He loves you, I can tell. He's never brought anyone to these things. Never let anyone see this part of his life. The fact that you're here means you matter more than the company or the legacy or any of it. How do you know? Because if you didn't, he wouldn't risk it. Adrian doesn't do anything halfway. If he's choosing you, he's all in. Before Elena could respond, Adrian appeared in the doorway. Daniel, stop corrupting my girlfriend. Too late, we're already planning your downfall. Daniel winked at Elena. Good luck tonight. You're going to need it. He left them alone on the terrace. Adrian came to stand beside Elena, looked out at the ocean. What did he say? That you're all in. That I matter more than I probably realize. Elena turned to him. Is that true? Yes? Even if it costs you everything? Especially then. Adrian pulled her close. How are you holding up? Your uncle's an asshole, your mother is terrifying in a nice way, and I'm pretty sure at least 5 people have already decided I'm a gold digger. Other than that, great. Adrian laughed. That's about par for the course. Come on, dinner's about to start. After that, we can make an appearance and leave early. Dinner was in a formal dining room with a table that seated 40 people. Elena found herself between Adrian and Catherine, which was probably strategic placement to keep her away from the sharks. The meal was exactly what she expected. Too many courses, too much wine, and conversation that was equal parts boring and calculated. Richard held court from the far end of the table, making pointed comments about company performance and succession planning. Daniel got progressively drunker and more entertaining, and Adrian maintained his careful control, answering questions and deflecting attacks with practiced ease. Then Catherine stood and tapped her glass for attention. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate with me. 65 years old, I can't quite believe it." She smiled. "When my husband was alive, these gatherings were his favorite thing. He loved having family together, even when we drove him crazy. I like to think he'd be happy to see us all here tonight." Elena felt Adrian tense beside her. "My husband built something extraordinary, a company, a legacy, a family empire. When he died, many people thought it would fall apart, that Adrian was too young, too inexperienced, too different from his father to carry on." Catherine's gaze swept the table. They were wrong. Adrian has not only maintained what his father built, he's expanded it, grown it, made it stronger, and he's done it while maintaining his integrity and his principles. Richard's expression darkened. Elena could practically feel his anger from across the table. "So tonight, I want to raise a glass to my son, to Adrian, for being exactly who he is, even when the world expects him to be someone else." Catherine lifted her wine. "And to Elena, who apparently sees in him what the rest of us sometimes miss, a good man trying his best." Everyone drank, even Richard, though he looked like the wine tasted like poison. After dinner, the party moved to the ballroom. Music played, people danced. Elena stood by the windows and watched the ocean crash against the shore while Adrian navigated conversations with people who clearly wanted something from him. "You're thinking about leaving." Elena turned to find Margaret Joe standing beside her. "Of course, because this night wasn't complicated enough." "Ms. Joe, I didn't realize you were invited." "I'm on the board. I'm always invited." Margaret studied her. "You handled dinner well. Didn't rise to Richard's bait. Didn't try too hard to impress people. Smart." "I wasn't trying to be smart. I was trying to survive." "Same thing in this world." Margaret sipped her wine. "I owe you an apology." Elena blinked. "I'm sorry?" "For the threats. For trying to force you out. For underestimating you." Margaret's expression was carefully neutral. "I thought you were a liability. A distraction that would weaken Adrian and hurt the company. I was wrong. What changed your mind?" "Garrett's investigation. He found evidence that someone was trying to destabilize Adrian by targeting you. The break-in, the threats. It wasn't random harassment. It was strategic." Elena's stomach dropped. "Who?" "Richard. He hired someone to scare you off, thinking it would distract Adrian enough to give Richard an opening to challenge his leadership." Margaret's smile was sharp. It backfired spectacularly. Adrian didn't get distracted. He got dangerous. And Richard didn't count on you being stubborn enough to stay. Does Adrian know? Garrett told him this afternoon. That's why he's been so controlled tonight. He's been waiting for the right moment. As if summoned by the mention of his name, Adrian appeared at Elena's side. "Margaret, plotting something?" "Just apologizing to your girlfriend for being an insufferable bitch." Margaret raised her glass in a mock toast. "She's good for you. Try not to screw it up." She walked away, leaving Elena staring after her. "Did she just apologize?" Elena asked. "She did. Margaret only respects strength. You stood up to her, which earned her approval." Adrian took Elena's hand. "Come with me. There's something I need to do." He led her back into the ballroom, up to where Richard was holding court with several board members. The room quieted as Adrian approached. "Uncle Richard, can we talk?" "Of course. What's on your mind?" Adrian's smile was cold. "I know what you did, the break-in, the threats, hiring someone to terrorize Elena to try to destabilize me." The color drained from Richard's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And so does everyone else here now." Adrian's voice carried across the room. "You thought you could scare her away. Thought I'd be distracted enough to make a mistake. Give you an opening to challenge my leadership. Adrian, this is hardly the time. It's exactly the time."
Adrian pulled Elena closer. You want to know the difference between you and my father? He built things. You just try to take what other people created. He inspired loyalty. You demand it. He knew when to fight and when to build bridges. Adrian paused. And he would be ashamed of you. Richard's face went red. How dare you? I dare because I can.
Because I own controlling shares of the company. Because the board stands with me, not you. And because if you ever threaten Elena again, I will destroy you so completely that you'll wish you'd never heard the Vale name. The room was utterly silent. Now get out, Adrian said quietly. You're not welcome here anymore. Richard looked around at the gathered crowd, searching for allies. He found none. Even the people who'd been laughing at his jokes during dinner were looking away. You'll regret this, Richard said. I really won't. Adrian turned his back, a calculated insult. Marcus, please escort my uncle out. Marcus materialized from somewhere and moved toward Richard. After a moment's hesitation, Richard left. The crowd watched him go, then slowly the conversation resumed. Catherine approached, kissed Adrian's cheek. Your father would be proud. I thought you said he'd be ashamed of Richard. I was talking about you, for protecting what matters. She smiled at Elena. Both of you, stay as long as you like. Or leave now if you'd prefer. The party will go on regardless. Adrian looked at Elena. What do you want to do? Elena thought about it. About this house and these people and the complicated web of family and business and power. About Richard's threats and Margaret's apology and Catherine's knowing smile. I want to dance, she said. One dance, then we can go home. Adrian pulled her onto the dance floor. The music was slow, classical, the kind of thing that required actual skill to dance to properly. Elena didn't care. She let Adrian lead, let herself be held, and tried to remember this moment, the feeling of being exactly where she belonged. Thank you, Adrian said quietly. For what? For staying, for standing up to Richard, for being here even though you're terrified and this is all insane. You stood up to Richard, I just watched. You being here gave me the courage to do it. Knowing you'd chosen me despite everything, that mattered more than any business strategy. Adrian pulled her closer. I love you, and I'm going to keep loving you even when my family is terrible, and the board is plotting and the world thinks we're crazy. The world definitely thinks we're crazy. Then we'll be crazy together. They danced until the song ended. Then they said their goodbyes, got in the car, and drove back to the city while Elena stared out the window and processed everything that had happened. Richard's going to retaliate, she said finally. Probably, but not effectively. I've already started moving pieces to counter whatever he tries. Adrian reached for her hand. Garrett's team collected enough evidence to press charges for the break-in. The police arrested the woman Richard hired this afternoon. Elena sat up straighter. What? When were you going to tell me? I just did. It happened while we were at dinner. Detective Chen called. They got a confession. The woman admitted Richard paid her $50,000 to scare you off. $50,000. That's what my safety was worth to him. That's what his desperation was worth. There's a difference. Adrian squeezed her hand. It's over, Elena. The immediate threat is gone. Richard's done. And we can finally breathe. But Elena wasn't sure she believed that. Nothing in Adrian's world seemed to ever be truly over, just paused until the next crisis. They got back to the penthouse late. Elena kicked off her heels, unzipped the expensive dress, and changed into Adrian's t-shirt. He'd already discarded his suit jacket and tie, was pouring them both wine. I need to tell you something, Elena said, accepting the glass. That sounds ominous. I talked to my old boss yesterday, from before Vale Industries. He called to check on me after seeing the news. Elena took a sip of wine for courage. He offered me my old job back, said if things got too complicated, I had an out. Adrian's expression didn't change. And I told him no, obviously, but Adrian, I need you to understand something. Elena set down her wine, took his hands. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Choosing the complications and the danger and your terrible family and all of it, but I'm also scared. I'm scared that one day you're going to wake up and realize I'm not worth the trouble. That's never going to happen. You don't know that. People change. Situations change. What if Adrian kissed her, cutting off the spiral of doubt? When he pulled back, his eyes were intense. Listen to me. You're worth every single complication, every fight with the board, every threat from my uncle, every moment of fear and doubt and chaos. You make me better. You make me want to be better, and I would burn down everything I've built before I'd let you go. That's very dramatic. It's very true. He rested his forehead against hers. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. This is new territory for both of us. But Elena, we're good at hard things. We're good at fighting for what we want. And I want you more than I've ever wanted anything. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. I want you too, even when it's terrifying, especially then. They stood like that for a long time, just holding each other. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Answer it, Elena said. It might be important. Adrian checked the screen, his expression shifting to surprise. It's the board chair, at 11 at night. He answered on speaker. Margaret. Adrian, I'm calling an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. We need to address the Richard situation formally. What's to address? He committed a crime. He's out. It's not that simple. He still holds shares. He still has allies. If we don't handle this correctly, he could cause real damage. Margaret paused. I'm proposing we buy him out, force him to sell his shares and sever all ties to the company, but it'll require a unanimous board vote. You have my vote. But why are you calling now? Because I wanted you to know I'm on your side. What Richard did was inexcusable, and what you did tonight, standing up to him publicly, protecting Ms. Cross, that showed real leadership, the kind the company needs. Adrian met Elena's eyes. Thank you, Margaret. Don't thank me. Just don't screw this up. The board is watching you both closely. One more scandal and even I won't be able to protect you. She hung up. Elena sank onto the couch. Did Margaret Jo just become our ally? Apparently, though with Margaret, alliances are always conditional. She supports us as long as we're good for the company. And if we're not? Then she'll turn on us just as quickly. Adrian sat beside her, pulled her against his side. But for now, we have breathing room. Richard's out. The immediate threat is gone. We can actually focus on being together instead of constantly fighting. What does that look like? Being together without the crisis? Adrian considered it. I have no idea. I've never done the normal relationship thing. Neither have I. Not really. Elena traced patterns on his chest. We could try, though. Figure it out as we go. Dinner dates? Movie nights? Meeting each other's friends? Terrifying. All of it. Want to do it anyway? Elena thought about everything they'd been through. The kiss in Midtown, the press conference, the break-in, the party tonight, all the fear and chaos and impossible situations they'd navigated together. Yeah, she said. I want to do it anyway. 3 months later, Elena stood in front of the mirror in Adrian's bathroom and stared at the positive pregnancy test in her hand. This was not part of the plan. They'd been careful. Mostly careful. Okay, occasionally careful, but still. This was not supposed to happen yet. They were still figuring out how to be a normal couple, still navigating the board's scrutiny and the press attention and the general insanity of their relationship. A baby was not part of the equation. Elena heard the front door open, Adrian's voice calling out that he was home. She took a breath, walked out of the bathroom, and found him in the kitchen making coffee. Hey, he said, smiling. How was your day? Complicated. We need to talk. Adrian's smile faded. That's never good. What's wrong? Elena held up the test. Adrian stared at it for a long moment. Then he set down his coffee mug very carefully. Is that? Yes. You're pregnant. Yes. He continued to stare. Elena couldn't read his expression. Couldn't tell if he was happy or terrified or angry or what. Say something, she said. I'm going to be a father. Yes. We're going to have a baby. That's generally how this works. Adrian crossed to her in 2 strides, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. We're having a baby, he said against her lips. You're not upset? Upset? Elena, this is... He pulled back, cupped her face in his hands. This is the best news I've ever gotten. We're going to have a family, a real family. Elena felt tears slip down her cheeks. I thought you'd be angry, or scared, or... I am scared. Terrified, actually. I have no idea how to be a father, but I want to learn. With you. Adrian pressed his hand against her still flat stomach. We're going to be terrible at this, aren't we? Absolutely terrible, but we'll figure it out. Like we figure everything else out. Exactly like that. They stood in the kitchen holding each other while the coffee got cold and the city hummed outside their windows. Elena thought about 2 years ago, when she'd been Adrian's perfect, invisible secretary. When she'd pushed down her feelings and maintained professional distance and convinced herself she was happy with that life. She thought about the kiss that changed everything, about the board meetings and the threats and the family gathering, about every impossible choice they'd made that led them here. I love you, she said. I love you too. Both of you. Adrian's hand stayed on her stomach, protective and gentle. We're going to need a bigger place. We're going to need so many things. Then we'll get them, together. Elena pulled back enough to look at him. Your board is going to lose their minds. Let them. They've survived everything else we've thrown at them. Your mother is going to be impossible. She's going to be thrilled. First grandchild. Adrian smiled. We should tell her soon, before the press finds out. How would the press find out? The press finds out everything. It's like their job or something. Elena laughed, felt some of the fear ease. When did this become our normal? Worrying about press coverage of our pregnancy? When I kissed you on a midtown sidewalk and decided I didn't care who saw. Adrian pulled her close again. Best decision I ever made. Even with all the complications? Especially with all the complications. Because the complications brought us here. To this moment. To building a life together that's messy and imperfect and absolutely nothing like I planned. And you're okay with that? Adrian kissed her, slow and thorough and full of promise. I'm more than okay with it. I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy. For the first time in I don't know how long. Elena thought about happiness. About how she'd spent years chasing success and stability and the approval of people who didn't really see her. About how loving Adrian had taught her that happiness wasn't about having the perfect life. It was about finding someone who made the imperfect life worth living. Me too, she said. I'm happy too. 6 months later, Elena sat in the nursery they'd built in their new apartment, the one with enough space for a baby and an office for her and a home gym for Adrian and all the messy reality of a growing family. Her hands rested on her very pregnant belly while she read contracts and answered emails and somehow managed to still do her job despite being approximately the size of a house. Adrian appeared in the doorway, holding takeout bags. You're supposed to be resting. I am resting. I'm sitting down. You're working. That's not resting. I'm reading, which requires minimal physical effort. Elena saved her document, closed her laptop. What'd you bring? Thai food from that place you love. Extra spring rolls because the baby apparently requires them. The baby requires many things. Spring rolls are among them. Adrian sat beside her on the couch they'd bought specifically for this room, big enough for nursing and story time and all the things they'd read about in baby books. He unpacked the food, handed her chopsticks, and they ate in comfortable silence. I have news, Adrian said finally. Good news or complicated news? Both. The board approved my proposal. I'm stepping down as CEO. Elena nearly dropped her spring roll. What? Not completely stepping down, staying on as chairman, but hiring someone else to run day-to-day operations. Adrian took her hand. I've spent 6 years building this company, putting in 80-hour weeks, sacrificing everything for growth and profit and meeting my father's impossible standards. And I'm done. I want time with you, with our baby, with the life we're building. Adrian, that company is not more important than you, not more important than our family. I thought it was. For a long time, I thought the company was all I had, all I was worth. He rested his hand on her belly. But you taught me I was wrong, that I'm worth more than my business success, that being a good partner, a good father, that matters more than any board meeting or deal. Elena felt tears well up. Pregnancy hormones made her cry at everything, but this felt different. This felt important. You're sure? I'm sure. I've already identified a replacement, someone I trust to run the company without destroying what we've built. I'll still be involved, still have control over major decisions. But the daily grind, the constant pressure, I'm done with it. What will you do instead? Adrian smiled. I don't know. Figure it out with you. Maybe start a smaller venture. Maybe invest in new companies. Maybe just take time to be human instead of a business machine. He kissed her forehead. The point is, I get to choose. We get to choose. Together. Elena leaned against him, felt their baby kick against her ribs. I never thought I'd hear you say you were stepping back from Vale Industries. Neither did I. But priorities change. I changed because of you. Don't put that all on me. You chose this. I did. Because you showed me it was possible. Showed me there was more to life than being what everyone expected. Adrian's hand traced circles on her stomach. Our daughter is going to grow up knowing her father was there. Really there. Not just when it was convenient or when he could fit her into his schedule. Daughter? You think it's a girl? Call it intuition. We could just find out at the next appointment. Where's the fun in that? Elena laughed, felt the baby kick again. She's active today, or he, whichever. Strong, like you. Stubborn, like you. Probably both. Adrian shifted, got more comfortable. Have you thought more about the nanny situation? I have. And I think we should do it. Not full-time, but enough that we both have flexibility to work when we need to and be present when we want to. You're okay with that? I know you wanted to do it all yourself. Elena considered it. She had wanted to be the kind of mother who did everything, who stayed home and sacrificed her career and made motherhood her entire identity. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that wasn't who she was. She loved her work, loved the challenge of it, loved feeling useful and capable and needed for things beyond childcare. I'm okay with it, because being a good mother doesn't mean sacrificing everything else. It means finding balance, being present when it matters, and asking for help when we need it. Look at us, being reasonable and mature. Don't get used to it. I'm sure we'll screw this up in 100 different ways. Absolutely, but we'll screw it up together. They sat like that until the food got cold, talking about paint colors and baby names and whether they should get a dog, planning a future that looked nothing like what either of them had imagined 2 years ago. Elena thought about the woman she'd been when she first started working for Adrian, careful and controlled and convinced that being invisible was the same as being professional. She'd thought success meant never showing weakness, never wanting more than she was offered, never taking risks that might cost her everything. She'd been wrong about all of it. Real success, she'd learned, wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave enough to want more, to fight for it, to choose love even when it was complicated and dangerous and absolutely insane. Thank you, Adrian said quietly. For what? For choosing me. For staying when you could have left. For building this life with me, even though it meant giving up safety and stability and every rational reason to walk away. Elena took his hand, pressed it against her heart. You're welcome. But Adrian, you chose me too. You risked everything for this, for us. That means something. It means everything. The baby kicked hard, making them both laugh. Elena thought about the future, about sleepless nights and diaper changes and all the messy, beautiful chaos of raising a child, about teaching their daughter or son how to be brave and kind and stubborn in the best possible ways, about building a family that chose love over power, presence over perfection, each other over everything else. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever was, but they'd face it together, the way they'd faced everything else, imperfectly, stubbornly, with too much coffee, and not enough sleep and absolute certainty that they were exactly where they belonged. Elena Cross had learned a lot in the 2 years since she'd stopped being invisible. She'd learned that love was messy, that happiness required courage, that the best things in life were usually the ones you had to fight for. But most importantly, she'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice was also the right one. That taking the risk, choosing the complicated path, saying yes to the impossible, That's where real life lived. And she wouldn't change any of it. Not the chaos, not the fear, not the impossibility of it all. Because standing beside Adrian, building a life that was nothing like she'd planned and everything she'd never known she wanted, that was worth every risk, every complication, every moment of doubt. They were unstoppable together, messy and imperfect and absolutely, completely unstoppable. And that was exactly how it should be.